Through the road. Okay.
You've been hiding in the shadows way too long. You always thought that you were weak, but babe, you're wrong. Yeah, you better step into the light, just give it a try. Think that it's time you let that spark out. You've been hiding in the shadows way too long. And who cares if you might mess it up? You're stronger than the others think. And who cares if you might mess it up? Go ahead and shine, darling. Go ahead and shine, my dear. 'Cause who cares if you might mess it up? Just shine. You shouldn't doubt yourself, 'cause you're a work of art.
Welcome. Hello. Today we are talking about my spiritual ancient wisdom retreat that I took to Japan. We're going to do a little recap. We're going to talk through it. If you are unfamiliar with me, hello, Emily. What? My name is Emily. I'm a professional psychic and psychic activator, and I do a lot of spiritual work all around the world with retreat groups. Now, the cool things about these trips is that we go on these trips and we have tons of spiritual activation throughout those times. We visit sacred sites, we talk to the energies and ghosts and spirits of the area, you name it. You may have seen my Egypt recap. I think I also did a Greece recap before then. Maybe it was an Ireland recap. I don't remember. We've been a lot of places, but this is our most recent Sirens. Could we not? But our most recent trip was obviously to Japan. And I'm going to kind of just like flow through this. We're just going to run through this kind of quick like. It's going to be kind of stream of consciousness because I do have a ton of journal entries about this, but I didn't really want to write out like a script or even like a bullet point list. I'm just going to go day by day and tell you some of the takeaways that I got from this trip. The biggest thing is with watching this video, I just want you to know that anywhere you travel, whether it's Japan or a road trip 2 hours away, can be this spiritually activated. So if you're listening to this and you're like, man, I wish I could take a trip like that, and maybe you don't have a lot of means to, or if you want to take a trip like that, I do offer more, of course. You can come with me, that would be amazing. Or maybe you're just like already have a trip planned and you're excited to go on it and you're like, I'd love to use that space as this magical spiritual development zone. You can. You absolutely 100% can do so. I want people to be inspired by this, not like, oh man, bummer, I can't do that, and then like move on. Please use this as a source of inspiration. It would make me so happy. All right, let's talk about it. We planned this trip over a year ago, and I will say, I have always been drawn to Japan for like the cultural aspects and for the scenery, and because I'm a big time skier, all those different things, I've always been drawn to Japan for those things. Not necessarily for spiritual development. I've always known it's a very spiritual place and location, and I did a bunch of research on it, but it wasn't necessarily something that I was like, oh, I really want to go here because I feel a pull there. However, that did change. So I wasn't necessarily initially really drawn for the spiritual components, but when we had the opportunity to take a trip here, Krista and I felt very, very drawn to holding an ancient wisdom retreat here. The cool thing is we ran a program over the past 4 months of summer, essentially, called Deity Academy, and each month we focused on the deities of a specific pantheon. So before we even went on our Japan trip, we were doing deity work with the Shinto pantheon. So we did a lot of research the week before we left for Japan about this pantheon and the deities within it. And during that time, a deity named Izanami came forward to me. And honestly, a lot of the research I did into the Shinto pantheon, a lot of the Shinto myths, are pretty misogynistic. And I was getting a little rubbed wrong by like how misogynistic it was. It was a lot. I was getting kind of rubbed raw by that, and then Izanami popped through, and she's essentially the goddess of the underworld, of death, of feminine rage. Her myth is wild, honestly, about how much they just hated her. To be totally honest, even though she birthed the world, basically. So she came through, and I ended up working with her a little bit for the Deity Academy call, and then I, just was really stoked to be connected with her, and I was like, amazing, like maybe I'll connect more with her when we go to Japan. However, right before we were about to leave, like 2 days before, she comes through and she's like, so I assigned everyone a kami. And I was like, what do you mean you've assigned everyone a kami? So basically what she told me is that she had, because I had noticed her, because we'd worked together a little bit, she went to all of the spirits that she knows across Japan and found a kami, which is a specific type of spirit that is native to Japan. It's basically a little bit lesser than a god, but it's like nature spirit or a bad luck spirit or a good luck spirit or the spirit of a certain technology. Like if you've ever seen yokai watch, it's kind of like that, but yokai are more specific to negative spirits, but it's something basically in that zone. And she came up to me and she was basically like, I found a kami for everybody. Everyone's gonna have their own personal kami. They'll pick them up at the airport. And I was like, well, thank you. Like that is so incredibly kind, which really is not normal. Like that's not something that deities usually do. That's not something that's happened on our trips before. We'll have people choose to work with a deity, but we don't necessarily have a deity assigned spirits to those individual people. And it was so incredible as our travelers started arriving to hear them be like, oh, I met my kami, or like try to figure it out over the course of the trip, or I think my kami's like this. And each of the people's kami was a very different spirit from one another. It wasn't like a deity necessarily. And each kami taught them really cool things that they needed from this trip. So this trip ended up being like a hyper activated, individualized spiritual journey experience that I like honestly wasn't anticipating in this way. Other trips are very activated and they all have a lot of spiritual growth and journey. This one specifically, I was like, holy shit, okay. This is like layers and layers and layers of that. So I'm just gonna run through everything kind of day by day so that you guys kind of get the bigger picture of it and what I learned from it and all those different things. So it was really neat. As soon as we got there, I knew my kami was just Izanami because she was the one who told me that she was going to do this, and so I was working with her the whole time. We arrived and we got there kind of late at night and just kind of took a cab into the city, and then the next day Weston, my husband, and I went and adventured, and we're just trying to like shop around and find a new bag and that sort of thing. Now the first thing we realized as we were adventuring, because everyone else in the group wasn't arriving till later that evening for dinner, was how absolutely fucking hot it was. Oh my God. It is the hottest place I have ever been. I am not exaggerating in the slightest. And I've been to Egypt. It was so hot, like so hot. It was like swimming through soup. It was so warm, and instantaneously we were like dripping sweat, and that was the state of being for the entire trip. Now, if you know me, or if you've maybe heard me talk about this before, I live way up in the mountains in the cold. I don't function great above 80 degrees. I would prefer it to be 80 max. This was not that. It was feeling like 112 some days. It was so hot and it was so humid. That being said, I kind of vibed with it, kind of got through it. It felt okay to me, but a lot of our travelers were like kind of struggling with it. I will say the heat ended up being a little bit of a blessing because it did very significantly make us be very present with everything all the time, because you were so connected to your body to pay attention to like what your body needed at any given moment, or like how things felt. It was so important the whole time, or else you could get seriously sick or injured. And so everyone was very tuned in with themselves and their body and their needs. And because of that, everyone was so present and hyper focused during the entire journey that we were on, because we had to be. And so it ended up being definitely a blessing. That being said, if I go back to Japan, I will be going back in the fall or winter or spring. Like I'm good on summer in Japan. Summer was so freaking warm. Oh my God, it was so hot. So we went shopping to find some cooling stuff, which Japan does amazing at. There's so many things in Japan that will help you cool down that are so no-brainers, and yet here in the States we have nothing like it, which is so dumb because we get just sit and suffer in our heat wave when we could have cooling wipes and cooling spray, frozen cold neck ring things that freeze in a nice hefty breeze from an air conditioner so you can constantly re-up on them. And there's so many like cooling fans and neck fans. Oh, it was just really, really cool. That was our souvenirs for everybody. We brought them all back, anti-heat devices to help everybody stay cool here, because we are also getting heat waves all the time. So then we met everybody for dinner, and we got to meet our amazing guide. Her name was Yuki. I adore her. She's absolutely precious. She wasn't so much on the level of understanding all this spiritual stuff, but she was so open-minded and so ready to ask questions. And by the end, she was like, read my poem, and like, what do you think about this? And just really getting into it with us, which was amazing. And she definitely got a lot of proof that this spiritual stuff exists and is valid during the course of the trip. So we met them, we went out to dinner, and everyone immediately was already in a really good space. And as we're walking to dinner, we walk through this courtyard, and there's this huge astrology clock mounted on this building. It runs with water. And we were like, okay, that's some freaking cool validation, like right off the bat immediately on our first dinner. Walk to dinner, come back to our first kind of workshop, introductions, all of that underneath the astrology clock, and then we go to bed. The hotel we were staying at was really cool too. It was like very, very tall and had a beautiful view of Tokyo, and like the top level was open seating breakfast area stuff, so you could see out for breakfast over the whole city and over the government building, which they would project like this cool light show on every night. It was just a really cool vibe to kick off like our time in Tokyo. It was like a really nice little kind of cultural hub almost to really kind of dip our toes into the culture to start on this trip. Rooms were tiny as hell. Rooms were tiny as hell. Rooms are not built for people my size. If you don't know, I'm almost 6 foot. I'm like 5'11" basically. My husband is 6'3". We are very tall, very big people, and that's not what these rooms were built for. They were tiny. It was a really cool experience to stay in that hotel. Then the next day we went to the Meiji Shrine. Now the Meiji Shrine was so neat because it is right in the middle of Tokyo, and yet the second you walk through those torii gates, you deeply feel like you were just sitting in a forest. It's so incredibly magical. Like I can barely describe how cool it is because it's just, the energy just instantly is different. Like the second you walk into the shrine, and it's right in your Harajuku. Like it's really, really in this middle of Tokyo where it's so busy and yet it's just so serene and beautiful. It's a 100-year-old shrine, and it's very interesting because Krista had gone the day before and they were talking to me before we went to the shrine. Like, yeah, I'm wondering what you get from the trees. They're constantly talking about their relatives and their ancestors and talking about their grandfathers over and over and over again. I was like, that's kind of weird for trees because trees aren't really necessarily connected to their ancestry like that. They're earthy, right? So I'm like, funky. Well, come to find out, when Yuki was telling us about the shrine when we were there, this shrine was built 100 years ago, and the founders of the shrine, all the people who put money towards building the shrine, got to plant a tree with the hopes of making this forest in 100 years, which now it is. So they were all talking, all the trees were talking about their grandfathers and stuff, meaning the people who planted them 100 years ago, because right now they're reaching the fruition of their dream, which was just beautiful energy to be introduced to right off the bat. You start is this huge torii gate. It's incredible, and Yuki was big on group pictures. We have a bunch of amazing group photos with like Yuki's head doing like a Yuki selfie, and it was just adorable. So we took our very first big time group picture. It was so cute and funny. And then we walk in through the torii gates, and every time you go through a torii gate, it's peeling back like a veil or like a layer of the universe so that you can see into the spirit world deeper. And that was the first time we'd all felt it together, and all this walk through, and like it was so hot, and we're instantly like chills. And I was looking to another one of our travelers, holy shit, oh my god, everything totally changed. It was like looking at the energy from the outside and then the inside were so different. And there was tons of spirits in this shrine. I like cannot describe how many spirits were in this forest. Specifically, there were these big bug spirit things, like big butterflies, these beautiful colorful wings, and moths, and these big beetles, and they were all way up in the trees, these spirits just around. And there were also like little tiny spirits, kind of Totoro-esque almost, type of furry little things in the sides in the forest there. It was amazing. So we walk in a little bit and we cross this little bridge, and we're right near the stream, and I like pause and we like gather everybody together and just do a little bit of a reminder of the workshop we had done that morning, channeling in your kami and channeling in your guides and feeling the energy of nature around you. And as I'm saying this, a butterfly, like a real one, not like a spirit one, like a beautiful white butterfly. I did end up getting a picture of a butterfly that was similar, just to keep the memory. Flies over and lands right here on my head. And everyone's like, don't move, don't move, don't move. And it just sits there for a second, and then it just flies away. Everyone was all like, and Yuki turns to me and she goes, the universe. We were just like, yeah, the universe. Like, here we go. Which was amazing. And we went through multiple torii gates as we got deeper into the shrine complex before the actual shrine itself, where you would pray. There are some offerings. Potatoes, squash. And one highlight of all of this shrine is there were these two trees, and the trees were together, and they had one of the ropes connecting them with like the zigzaggy lightning paper on it. And I was like, oh, like, what are those trees? Like, why are they tied together? And Yuki was like, oh, they're married. The trees said they wanted to be married, so we married the trees. The trees are married. And it's so cute. Again, it was one of the most beautiful things about Japan is it's like obviously one of the most technologically advanced societies, and it has so much new cutting edge technology and systems moving people and all these different things, and yet spirituality is so an integral part of their daily life still. Like so integral. Like going to shrines and praying to deities and offering things for luck, and all those things are so integrated into the society of the entire country. It's such a beautiful thing, especially as someone who's a content creator in this space and who's been in the psychic spiritual space for basically my whole life, but like actively, professionally since I was like 15. It's so refreshing because people oftentimes think that magic is so ridiculous, and I hear so much shit about magic constantly and about, oh, why would you believe that? And like, I believe in nothing, whatever. And then to be in this society where it's like not just like you believe in it, you don't. It's like it's accepted, it's real. You either participate in it or you don't. And the accepting it's real piece is just, oh, it was so refreshing to just have that knowledge of everything, and good luck this, and this was, you do this for good luck, and to ask the deities for this or to blessings, and everything was revolving around that, and it was so cool. Oh, it was so cool and so refreshing. And things can be like that, guys. They can, I promise. They really can. I was there. Anyway, after the Meiji Shrine, we went over to Harajuku and we did Takashita Dori Street. I think that's right. I'm probably forgetting. Again, I'm doing this without notes. So the street that's hip and there's like animal cafes and stuff like that. Honestly, that was overwhelming for me. I'm not gonna lie. Other people really vibed on it and I loved that for them. I did not. It was not my vibe. It was not my energy. There were so many people. The things around I was just not particularly interested in putting energy toward. It was just not my zone. So we ended up going back to the hotel, and then we got ready for our first food tour. We did 2 food tours on this trip, both of which were incredible. We got ready for our first food tour, and on this first food tour, Yuki took us to the coolest restaurants. Every restaurant Yuki took us to was really cool, but the first restaurant we went to was this, it was the coolest thing, and honestly, it's an idea I wish if I didn't already run 3 businesses, I would probably do, because I wish it would happen here. We go up to this restaurant. It's on the like 5th floor of this building. We go up there, we sit down, and at the table there's like some appetizer stuff out, and then everyone has these like little baskets, whatever. And I'm like, weird to have a salad bar in a basket, but like, okay. It wasn't a salad bar. It was a Japanese candy and snacks bar.
This is like a themed restaurant of like a matsuri, the Japanese festival. And then, oh, you have this basket. So please bring this one to the middle, and then you can pick the snacks as much as you want. I pre-ordered some food for you, and yeah. So this is a fried bread that we have it for the school lunchtime. So this is like when we have this one, you know, on the menu, it's like, oh, we're so happy. So we can share it.
So you go up, and there was tons. They're individually packaged, and we would just fill our baskets, and then everyone was like sharing them around. Oh my god, it was so cool. It was so cool. It was such a neat experience. And then there was also food you could order, so we all tried food together. It was so neat because it gave us cool like understanding of Japanese snacks. So we had a blast with that. And then we moved on and we were walking to the tempura restaurant. And on the way we got to pass the big Godzilla head. Every night at 7 p.m. it roars and the building looks like it's falling down and whatever. And we got to all watch that, which was super fun. It's just this huge Godzilla looking energy in Shinjuku, which is a part of Tokyo. And so it was really neat. And during this entire time, again, people are starting to understand their commies. And when I look at the group as a whole, I can kind of see people's commies around them. So it was cool because our group was kind of like 2 times the size it was. And it was already an amazing group of people. After the tempura restaurant, we actually walked through kind of the red light district of Tokyo to get to our next destination, our next restaurant. And it was really interesting because if a building was like offering the services of women, they were made up to have like really big eyes, or even the posters were edited sometimes to have really big eyes, and oftentimes their hair was dyed blonde, and it was very much trying to like almost fit to like Western beauty standards. It was very interesting. And then when the men, like if they were offering the services of men, it was very, very like the men were dressed kind of almost more feminine and really chic and fashion and, you know, really kind of longer hair and stuff. And it was just really interesting to look at the energy between the male gaze and the female gaze and how instantaneously you could look on either side of the street and see the differences of what they were advertised for. And it was just so stark and clear and easy to understand. It was really interesting to be like, wow, well that's like a cool energy dichotomy. And then we went to our last restaurant, which was a make your own drinks, like unlimited make your own open bar style drinks. Also food we had there too, but then literally you could go up and pour like, here's some vodka and some whiskey and some flavors, and then there's also beer or wine, there's sake or whatever you wanted. So we ended up eating there, and then we went back and slept. The next day, we woke up and we went to the fish market. And Yuki was really good at taking us to the shrines of places before we would go and do an activity. So she took us to the shrine at this fish market. Fish market itself isn't operable anymore. You don't catch the fish and bring them right there, and that's moved on, but it was the oldest fish market before. And so now it's a little bit more of a tourist destination. There's like a lot of shops that sell different fish and delicacies and things like that, and you can like walk around and try different things on a stick or a big wafer cracker filled with seafood. But at the end of it, there's this shrine that was made because a statue washed up in the ocean like 200 or 300 years ago, something like that, and they built a shrine around this statue, this gift, and people came to pray to it and whatever. It's kind of expanded from there. It was not a huge shrine, but it was really cool energy. We're standing outside the shrine and there's these two ghosts over on the side, and I'm like looking at them and I was like, hello, and they're like arguing together. There's these two men and they're like arguing with each other, and they keep like gesturing down at the ground, and I kind of like the ground, and I kind of like psychically like reach out to them like, hello, do you guys need like help? Like, I can help you with stuff, which is what I typically do if I see like ghosts kind of in distress that way, which doesn't happen all that often. Usually I just kind of see them about doing their own thing, but they were hanging out and they were very upset that the water was gone, or basically that they kept saying the water's hardened. How did the water harden? Because they're standing on the street, and so they think that the water should be there, but it's not there anymore. And so like, where's the water? Like, it was supposed to be here. And I was like, oh, like I can move you to the water, but this isn't how it works anymore. And then they just kind of like scoffed at me like, well, dumb woman, and like left. But I thought that was very funny. I was like, oh man, okay, they don't need my help, but like the water's not there anymore. Not anymore at all. Anyway, so we prayed, we got fortunes at this shrine. It was a beautiful experience. And then we did the fish market. Most of the fish market I spent getting shaved ice because it was hot. I tried a couple other things, but it was shaved ice and mochi was the name of the game at the fish market for me, and I loved it. Weston ended up doing sake tasting with some other of our group, and it was a fun experience. We went to sushi making class after that, which was pretty cool. So we all got to gather together and like make sushi together, and it was a really cool bonding thing because it was all something none of us had ever really done. And there's something so innately beautiful about being bad at something in a group, like being bad, like learning a new skill and being just beginners at something together in a group, and like how evenly it puts everybody, and everyone was instantly super more bonded together because of that. And it was just this beautiful camaraderie of energy. And at that point, everyone's already feeling really comfortable with each other. It already feels like we've been there for like a week, even though it's only like our second day. So it was really fun, and we made sushi, we ate sushi. It was good sushi. It was a great time. it was a really good time. And then we walked to the oldest neighborhood in Japan, and it now currently it's like a market with these huge temple complex all around it, and it's burned down 20 times in its history. Always gets rebuilt. Most recently it was burnt by the US during World War II, and only one of the original structures from before that period of time still stands. And there's signs all over it like, do not come near this with matches, like do not do anything like that, because it's obviously burnt so many times. But it was really interesting because when I was experiencing this, and it's very old style wooden everything built that way, there was tons of people like tourists and other people there, but there was also tons of ghost people. So it was kind of like two realities like overlaid over one another because there was so much going on. I will say the energy of fire wasn't as prevalent there as I thought it would be. There's this one big like cauldron filled with incense that was happening, and that was around there. There was a lot of like spirits protecting the whole area from fire because that was like the source of fire that was around, and there were like no like around the cauldron. But for the most part, everyone was just going about their business from all these different ages, all overlapped over one another. We ended up getting some spiritual tools there. So we got a bell and we got a wind chime, just kind of honoring the energy that way, had a snack, that sort of thing. And then we walked over to the kitchen street and everyone got brand new Japanese knives. It was really cool. The kitchen street was super fun too because it was filled with the kami that are like little frog guys with like turtle shells, basically like what Bulbasaur is based off of. So like that. And there were some of them around too, and there's a bunch of myths around them. Side note, just since we're here at this space and I'm about to tell you about like seeing Mount Fuji and going to Kyoto, which is the coolest place ever. I fucking love Kyoto. I do just want to say a special extra thank you to my patrons, my top tier patrons, and my Patreon in general. It's incredible. Thank you all for being a part of my Patreon. If you are, I would love for you to join my Patreon, or at the very least like and subscribe to this channel. That would be super killer. But my top tier patrons, I'm especially thankful for. They're the reason I can make these videos for you, and they are, so a big thank you to Taylor, Cassandra, Margot, Marie, Alex, Marla, Angela, Alexandria, Danielle, and Meg. Alex actually was on the trip with us, which was super cool. So getting to thank her now is pretty exciting because she was there. So Alex, if you're watching, it was so much fun. We had such a good time. But yeah, thank you to my patrons. We do tons of fun stuff on Patreon. You get tons of bonus videos and bonus content, podcast a day early, basically a monthly meditation. You get a monthly card pull. There's so much stuff that you get on the Patreon. So I'd love for you to go check that out and all the different opportunities there. Top tier also has access to my secret bookings calendar. So they get readings much sooner than like 7 months, which is what I'm currently booked out at. Anyway, thank you so much. All right, back to the story. Next we head to Kyoto. So the next morning we get up and we go and we take a Shinkansen, which is a speed train, high speed train, which is nice. We've taken tons of trains at this point. That's just what you do in Japan. But we're on the Shinkansen, and basically Yuki was like, well, hopefully we'll get to see Mount Fuji. Like, it's summer, it's rare that there's visibility to see it. And we were like, we're gonna see it. We decided we're all manifesting this together, which means it's gonna happen. And it did. It definitely did. We were on the train and you look over and there's Fuji in all of her glory. And one of the things we had channeled in is there's 2 volcanoes in Japan that are like essentially dragon portals, which I could go into more deeply. And if you want me to, I'll definitely do a video more about that and like how those portal energies work. So Fuji was one of them. So we already had like an inkling of like opening that up. Oh, I forgot to even say, during the Meiji Shrine, on the very first day, we went to a dragon well, which was amazing. We're walking to this dragon well, and there's this huge crane that flies over. She was beautiful. Or he, I don't know, but I feel like maybe she landed and she was watching us and we're like, cool, we have blessings. And we went to this well and you're supposed to like wash yourself in this well. And there was these little dragon spirits like swimming around in the well, and it was beautiful and clean. It was so incredibly cool. And there was like beautiful nature all around it. It was amazing. So dragon spirits were prevalent anyway. So after we passed Fuji, all of a sudden I start feeling more and more dragon energy the closer and closer we get to Kyoto. And by the time we're getting like within like 10 minutes of Kyoto, I'm like looking out the window and watching like a dragon swim through the earth like next to the track. I'm like, okay, so there's a like, and it was huge. I was like, there's a lot of dragon energy here. And there was so much dragon energy in Kyoto. Kyoto just, the second we got off the train, everyone was like, oh, we like here. The energy is more grounded, it's older, it's just more ancient, it's more rooted in nature and spirit and just energy, and oh god, it was so cool. And immediately I was like, oh, so dragon energy's here though, like a lot. I do have a dragon video or a video all about dragons on my page, and so if you haven't checked that out, you can go get more information from dragons that way to understand more of what I'm talking about. But yeah, there was a lot of dragon energy, and our hotel there was amazingly cool, and it was the biggest rooms we had, and it was beautiful and very traditional, and it was just a much different energy, and I loved the energy of Kyoto. Honestly, I would spend so much more time there. So we get checked in, we rest for a little bit, and then we go on our adventure to our first shrine. And it was the hottest day of the entire trip. It was so freaking warm. So first we were gonna go to this one temple and then walk to this next shrine, which you would like walk along this thing and then up this hill, and there's this big shrine. Went to the first temple. I wasn't vibing on the energy. No one, I don't think, was vibing on the energy. All of us kind of felt very weirded out by this temple. It was just really open, not a lot of shade. One of our travelers couldn't handle the heat and was like tapping out, gonna go back to the hotel, which totally fair, understood. I did get gifted a ring, like an actual ring there. I should have had it here, but it was like a wire wrapped ring. It was found on the ground in the dirt, and I was like, oh, should I like give this? And I was immediately told like, nope, this is yours. It wasn't like a valuable ring at all. It maybe cost $1. Like, it was like, for sure. I was like, okay, thank you. Like, I accept this ring as this gift. And it really helped me to stay cool on the rest of the time. Like, it was definitely a blessing from Izanami. It's just like, here, you're gonna die, like have this ring. That was cool. And then we opted to not walk, but to take the bus to kind of the hill to get to the next shrine because it was literally so warm. Once we got bottom of that hill and we started like walking up this hill to the next shrine, it was literally like a pilgrimage. It was so hot. There was cars, there was people, whatever, but all of us were like, oh, this is a pilgrimage to this shrine at the top. Like we can feel this energy like pulling us up there. So we go up to the top of this hill. We're all really hot by the time we make it up there, but we all make it up there. We walk through like this gateway. It's not a torii gate, but it's like a gateway to get to this temple area. And then we're in this like big temple, and we're in the big temple, and there's a shrine where you can pray for business success. So Krista and I go up and we're like, we'll pray together. Obviously our businesses are intricately linked. So we pray together, and as we bow, the gong goes off. Like someone rings the gong.
The gong rang for you too.
The gong, yeah. And the energy went like, and we're like, oh shit, okay. And I know a lot of our other travelers had a very similar kind of experience there. And we're like, okay, validation, like, thank you. That's amazing. When you pray at shrines, you're also kind of like introducing yourself to the god of that shrine to be like, hello, like, this is me. This is what I'm looking for. Like, thank you for being here. You offer a coin, whatever. So we're standing by this stage area and Yuki comes over and she explains that back during the Edo period when times were really tough, people would throw themselves off the stage. Unaliving, right? Now they don't do that anymore. Now there's like a barrier there. But we're standing over there and all of a sudden I'm hearing something like with my physical earth ears. I'm like, what is that? It sounded like a woman going like, like she was like saying something. And I'm like looking around thinking it's like maybe a cicada or something because they were everywhere. There's so many cicadas. And I was like, what is that? And it was not at the same frequency of all the talking around us, like at all. And then another one of our travelers looks over at me and she's like, do you hear that? I'm like, yes, I do hear that. Only the two of us heard it. There was a bunch of other people around. No one else could hear it. It's just the two of us. And I was channeling and it was a woman trying to get people to not jump. So she was telling them to stop, like, don't jump, don't jump. And I was like, no one's going to jump. Like, we're okay, we're safe. And then the voice went away. She like stopped talking. So that was a really cool experience.
That is the stage where we heard the woman warn us to stop because it's the stage where people used to jump.
And then we went down to this area where you could drink. It was still in the same shrine complex where you could pick one of 3 waters to drink from and you would get one of 3 blessings. So longevity, success, and love were like the options. And you could just pick one to drink from. And it, honestly, the water itself, beautiful, flowing, amazing, definitely imbued with that energy. I could see it sparkling off of it. The energy of the area though was so full of greed. It made me like I couldn't handle it very well, to be totally honest. I had a really hard time with it. And so by the time I got up to the water, I was just kind of like, thank you, water, for existing. Like, even if you just want to like refresh me, I don't need any other blessing than that. And it did. You scoop it, you pour it in your hands, you drink it, you like wash it over yourself. And it was the most refreshing thing. It was so cold and it felt so good. And I was like, just thank you, water, for that. And glad I drank the water and got the blessings, but it was just a really weird energy to kind of exist in. Got the blessings, but it was just a really weird energy to kind of exist in. So then we all kind of like broke off for a little bit of free time to go like explore some of the shops on the hill that like went up to the shrine. And Weston and I ended up on this street that was kind of adjacent to the shops on accident. And we were walking that way and it's direct sunlight. Like, it is so much sunlight. It's directly on us. There's no shade. And I'm like having a little bit of a panic about it because it was getting really, really hot. And I was like, we need to get back to the other street. Like, we need to get over there. And we're walking. I'm like, oh, super hot, like having an issue. And then there's this little tiny wooden sign. It was like a little wooden thing. And it was like, this way, like cut this way to get to the street. And I was like, there we go, let's go that way. And we turn and it's the coolest path. It's this stone step path that like goes up and over onto the next street. And it's all covered in trees and ferns and all these beautiful plants and there's fountains there. But then there's these little statues of tanuki, which are like the raccoon dogs, all the way through this path. And I was just like, thank you Tanukis, like thank you Tanukis, like I appreciate you all so much, like thank you. And like Izanami had like asked for help at this point in time to like help get us over to the street and she just provided this path. So I'm like, amazing. And then at the very top of the path, before it like dipped back down to go to the other street, there was a ceramics shop, like where they were making ceramics outside and like a ceramic shop. And like, we're buying some Tanuki ceramics, like we have to buy some stuff here. So we bought some ceramics from them. And then we went and we got some food and I felt better. And I lived and it felt good. And then we kind of reconnected from the group from there. Then we went back to the hotel, which was a hell of a way to start Kyoto. It was a lot of energy that processed through. And that night, a lot of us had incredibly powerful dreams that were really important to our journey, what we were learning. Most people at that point in time had identified their kami or at least understood who was connected to them in some way or like their energy, which was super powerful too. Just incredible. And so we all had like kind of weird dreams all together basically. And the next day, half the group went to go get kimonos on and half the group had a free morning. I took the free morning. I did not go get a kimono on, mostly because it was hot. It was so hot. And I did not want to put on a kimono in that level of heat. But also because there was a rabbit, like a bunny rabbit shrine that was very close to the hotel and I wanted to go see that. This was my favorite shrine probably that we went to. There was bunny rabbits like everywhere, like carved bunny rabbits and statues of bunny rabbits and bunny rabbits on the banners. Like it was a whole rabbit shrine, but also spirit bunnies all over the place, like covered in spirit bunnies. They were everywhere. And so it was like saying hi to all the little bunnies. And there was this one big fox spirit in this one like little mini shrine in like the corner. And it was sequestered to that corner. Like it could not leave to go like chase the bunnies, but it was just sitting there like having to watch them. And I was like, damn dude, like who'd you piss off? Like that's a hell of a curse to get stuck there watching all your food. And he did not answer, nor did he like that question. But still, it was funny. And I left money there. We got these little ceramic bunnies that had like fortunes in them. And we're sitting down to open the ceramic bunnies with the fortunes in them. And I looked at my watch and I was like, oh, okay. So we still have like an hour before we have to grab a taxi or an Uber to get to the place where we're going to go have a tea ceremony. And then I open my fortune and I unfurl it. I can't read it obviously. So I'm like Google translating it a little bit. And then I looked down and it's like, oh my God, we have 15 minutes. How did that happen? Like, that was literally all we did. We looked at that. I couldn't even read it. So like it didn't take an hour. It was just an offering of unspent time, which tends to be an offering that happens to me when I'm in a space where I'm receiving a gift. And I did. Pause. You will hear about it in a moment. So both Wes and I were like, oh my gosh, we got to go. So we went and we got an Uber, and it was the best Uber ride in my entire life. First of all, let me just say that. It had a full glass ceiling. He had like bird noises and like calming music playing. And he drove us like the long way up over this hill. Not the long way in like charging, but like it was a more out of the way. And honestly, I would have paid it because it was through these trees. There was no houses around. It was just beautiful and calming. And we were just like looking at the glass ceiling at all these trees. It was the best Uber ride ever. And I tipped him, even though you're not technically supposed to in Japan. I don't care. He got tipped. He was awesome. He also didn't talk to me, and I love that. So we get to the tea ceremony there. The other group joins us. The other half of the group that's in the kimono.
Yeah.
Everyone else joins us who had their own mornings. We go to the tea ceremony, which was such a powerful, cool thing to go through. It was just such an immersive cultural experience. It was a matcha tea ceremony. We learned how to like turn the bowls properly to drink and when to not, and like when to bow and how to drink and all these things. But I'm sitting there trying to pay attention to all that's going on, and I feel like this little furry thing on my leg, and I was like, what the hell? And I looked down, and I have a bunny with me. He's like this big. He's a cute little guy. And I was like, hello. And basically he had chosen to come with me from the shrine. And I was like, all right, like, cool, like, you can be here. Don't be jealous, Hermes. But I was like, you can be here, amazing. And then it like hopped up on my lap and I'm like trying to bow and stuff with like out squishing this little spirit bunny. It was very funny. Come to find out, which I channeled with the bunny later at the Inari Shrine, which I'll touch on in just a second. This bunny, basically this area of the shrines, the bunnies themselves, for thousands of years, people would go when they wanted a bunny guardian. They'd go pray at this area of the forest, and then a spirit bunny could choose to come with them or not to their home to be kind of like a guardian of them and their space. They get to choose who they go with. They can always go back and forth at any time that they want to, but they come with the people they want to go with. And this bunny decided to come with me. He's adorable, which I felt very honored about, and that's why I gave obviously that gift of unspent time. And that's why the shrine was built there, I guess, because as the forest went away, they still wanted the bunnies to be there, so they built the shrine there to facilitate the bunnies coming in and out, which is amazing. So now I have a bunny friend. He's around doing bunny stuff. So I was a little bit blown away, and I'm like, can't share it with anybody because we're in the middle of the tea ceremony. So after that, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I have a bunny, like this is new. And the tea ceremony was amazing and super impactful and just really, really cool, and just a wonderful to have an experience with a culture that's just so mindful about everything. Everything has intention. Everything has a reason it was done this way. Everything is so mindful, and it's really beautiful. And then we went to this market. It was called the Nishiki Market. I love this freaking market. It's amazing. Half of it's like food stuff, and then half of it's like shopping, just in general, clothes and stuff, crystals, books. Just, it's so cool. It's so cool. And we found a vegan restaurant, and I almost cried. It's the first vegan restaurant we had found. We found it. I was so excited. Me and another traveler on the trip, shout out Russ, we went and we were both just like almost crying over like the sheer quantity of food that we could just eat. We could just eat it all. And it was amazing, and it made me so happy. And then the other half of the group like went and found really good meat stuff for them to eat, and the people in kimonos got to change out of their kimonos. And we just went shopping and just really enjoyed our space there, and it was just incredibly pleasant. And then we went back to the hotel and had some dinner and recouped a little bit. And then we went to the Inari Shrine at night. Now, the Inari Shrine is the shrine with like the 1,000 torii gates. Like if you look up shrines in Japan, it typically comes up as one of the main pictures. It has these 1,000 torii gates that go like up around this mountain and down. And it's usually crammed with people. And it wasn't even on our list or our itinerary to go to, but Yuki was like, you guys need to go to this. Let's go at night. It's spooky. And we were like, all right, Yuki, like, let's go. So we went to the Inari Shrine at night, and it was one of the coolest things I've ever done in my entire life. It was so freaking cool. It was all lit up, beautiful. We went up, we prayed at the Shrine of Inari, who's one of the main, like, he's one of the heavy hitter gods of Japan. He's a big deal. There's tons of stuff dedicated to him. It was really funny though, as I prayed, I'm like bowing and I'm like introducing myself, and I see him, and he's like towering over the shrine. He's like pointing down at me and like trying to intimidate me. And I was like, oh, I can get big too. And so like I made myself super duper big energetically, like meet him eye to eye. And he was kind of like grumbly, like, fine, you kind of passed the test. Like, what do you want? And then I could like talk to him as equals. And then after that, I was like, pop back out of that. And Krista was near me. I was like, Krista, like, he just tried to like intimidate me, and they were like, yeah, he's trying to intimidate me too. And like, we got to swap stories, and that was just his whole vibe, is he's just trying to like make us pass this like face your fear gauntlet thing in order to like give us a blessing, which he did, which was amazing. Then we start walking through the Torii gates. At one point, I felt so drunk with energy, and I literally mean drunk. I was like having trouble walking straight, and I look up and Krista's in front of me, like stumbling, and I got it on film of Krista just like also struggling. I'm like,
Don't fall over. No, you don't run into the wall.
struggling. I'm like, cool, it's not just me. When I say that every single traveler on the trip got what they needed from the Inari Shrine, like, I mean it. Everybody got what they needed from this experience. It was so cool. It was such a cool energy. Basically, we got kind of not halfway, like a quarter of the way through, and half of the group, we kind of broke into like 3 or 4 little mini groups basically. And the group that I was with, we went a little bit further, and there was this shrine on the side. Already we're walking through, and like, if you look to the side, there's spirits. You can see them. They're like looking at us. They're not human. All on the side, like outside of the Torii gates. And I'm like, okay, like there's a lot of stuff going on. But there's this little shrine stop off. The bunch of the other travelers like kept continuing going up to go see it, this overlook over the city. And a bunch of us stayed there at this little shrine thing. And I was drawn to the shrine. I did an offering there. There's 2 fox energies. I was like, okay. Then there's like stairs behind the shrine to go up to like another complex of shrine, and then stairs behind that to go to like another layer of shrines, like deeper into the mountain basically. And they weren't super far away, but you couldn't really fully see all of them. And so we went up to like the next little shrine complex, found a Torii gate where people were offering rocks, like tons and tons of rocks. So I put some crystals there. David did an offering there. Krista got some ahas and insights. And then I'm starting to feel like spirit energy pull magnetism energy, and I'm like, okay, I think we're supposed to go to this like 3rd level of shrines, go deeper in. So we start walking up the stairs, and another one of our travelers who'd already gone up there came down and was like, hey, I just saw this little spirit of a boy that was playing with a cicada. I kind of feel like I might have just gotten spirited, like tried to get spirited away a little bit. I don't think it was a person, I think it was a spirit. Like, it was really weird. You guys should go check it out. Both Chris and I are like, yeah, we don't think that was a ghost though. Like, something about that feels weird. So we went up there and we got to that level with the shrine. No one else is around. And we both were like, oh no, like there's so much energy here. We're not probably supposed to be here. The traveler who had gone up before thought it was a graveyard. It wasn't a graveyard. It was just shrines on top of shrines on top of shrines on top of shrines. It was so thick and so layered with shrines and energy, and oh my god, it was so much. And we were like, okay, looking around. I tried to snap a picture. It's so blurry, and I was standing perfectly still because I was like freaked out by the energy. So I'm standing there perfectly still, just like click. So blurry, you can't even really see it, which was wild in and of itself. And then all of a sudden, Izanami appears behind me, like full big warrior's robe, sword, like big. And I was like, okay, we need to leave. We're not supposed to be here in the center. Like, we're not supposed to be here. We already felt weird, already felt like if we went further in, we were not going to come back. And now Izanami's here, like, don't fuck with them. I'm like, okay, we're going. So Krista and I like leave that space. We go down and we run into 2 other of our travelers on the stairs. We're like, hey, we just had that experience, and they were like, weird, we were just standing, come here. And like, we went over there, and there was this cold spot that they keep passing in and out of. I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, there's definitely energy there too. We're good. You can go explore that if you want, but we're going to go down here. And they're like, no, we're good. We don't need to go up there either. So we like went down, and then we started kind of going down the Torii gate paths to kind of go back. As we're going, there's now these like offshoot paths, and they were very much like paths that kept feeling like beckoning, like, come here, come go on me. And we were like, nope, no one goes. And we kept making sure the whole group was staying together because it was very beckoning energy, and it was very easy to like follow that. And spiritually, that's a no. It wasn't scary bad. It was just there's stuff we don't understand here, and we're gonna honor that. There was this cat on the way up that was like laying on this bridge, like cleaning himself, and we just kind of were like, hello cat, like not spirit cat, like real cat. And they're like, hello cat. On the way down, that spirit cat, still doing the same cleaning, had moved to be planted in front of this one path. And I was like, you guard this. You make sure people don't go down this path. You knew we were coming back, and like doing the same cleaning, like literally interrupted its cleaning to move from one spot to another, clean itself again. And we're like, oh, okay, like don't go down that path. Krista and I look down the path, and Krista sees this like bone creature at the end of the path, like with physical eyesight, definitely a spirit creature. But it was like, it looked like a guy riding a horse, but its bones were what was doing it. It was really, really weird. And Krista, I was like, wow, okay, I feel a lot of energy from that. And we're walking a little further. Krista's like, did you see that bone thing? And I was like, oh yeah. And I turned and looked, and the bone thing was following us. And I could now see it with my physical eyes. And I was like, okay, now we have this bone thing, like over on the side through the Torii gates over there. Big bone thing. Turns out 2 of our other travelers had been stopped at the same path a little further behind us, and they were filming, and they get a full spirit orb doing all sorts of weird spirit orb shit on their video. And I'm not going to post it because it's not my footage, and I don't feel comfortable with that. But then they catch this white creature in the background on video walking through the background. And it was crazy cool. And it's a pitch dark path. I was there. It goes straight into the forest. That's all that's that way. There's no reason there'd be a light over there, nothing. And it was just this creature. So we got on film. Yeah, we did. And then I text Weston because Weston had gone up with the other group, and I get a text from him and he's like, I'm down at the gates, like, where are you guys? Did I miss you? And I was like, how did you get back down? Because the only way to go back down is to go all the way up and around or to turn around like we did. And he was up in front. I was like, how did you do that? He's like, I did the whole thing. Weston speed ran it like all by himself, like did the whole freaking loop. Yuki was astonished, but it's a very Weston behavior. I was blown away. We get down there and I start channeling in things, and that's how I get all the information about the bunny. It was right down there. We get there, all of our travelers eventually come back, and each one of them had this story about like what they were impacted by during the shrine. And it was amazing. And Izanami was like hardcore with me at that point in time, like whoo. And it was very deeply activating. It was a powerful, powerful experience to be there at night, to have all those energies. It was really, really interesting and cool. And then we went back to the hotel and we did like a tarot party in the bedroom. Like it was like a sleepover. All of us were in our jammies reading tarot for each other in one of the rooms, and it was so fun. And we did a reading for Yuki, and that was precious, and we had a great time with that. It was nice decompression from like all that spirit energy. Yuki at this point is a huge believer. Like at this point, Yuki's like in, which was really fun. And then we went to Osaka the next day, and Osaka is just not for me. I'm not a big Osaka fan, to be totally honest. It just wasn't my energy. I didn't vibe off of it very much. And we basically were in Osaka to do a food tour, and then a lot of people were leaving. So we ended up shopping around. We went to like the Nintendo store and the Poke Center and the Mugiwara store. If you're a One Piece fan, it was awesome, which I am. Love One Piece. You should read/watch One Piece. It's the best. It's so good. Anyway, and then we went to this food tour, and again, incredibly cool restaurants, incredibly cool energy there. The first restaurant was for octopus balls. What are they called? Takoyaki. I got there. It was a takoyaki restaurant because that's what was invented there. So it's a takoyaki restaurant, plus we got to cook. There's like grills on the table, and you cook these like cabbage pancakes, and it was really delicious, super fun. The next place we went to, different street, and there we had the conveyor belt sushi, and you like played a game like putting your plates like into the after a certain amount of plates into the little like redistribution thing, you got a chance to win like a gumball machine style prize. Super fun. Really good sushi too. Really good sushi. And then we had a little bit of extra time, and we went and started playing the claw games, which are my favorite. It's my hidden skill. I'm good at claw games, and they're so much fun in Japan, and we did that a lot throughout our trip. And then we went to our final restaurant, which was a Japanese barbecue where you like sit cross-legged, bare feet. There's barbecues on front of you on the table. And the vegetarians all ended up getting kind of looped together there, again, as we typically did at the veggie table. And it was just it was so great. We had a great time with it. And then we got to basically go to a shrine after that, where there was this little tiny shrine. This is busy middle city stuff. Little tiny shrine, tiny, like this space size, little tiny. But the statue there was covered in moss because you pray by splattering water over the statue, and now it's all covered in moss, and it's beautiful. And we actually got to do our closing activation there at the shrine, which was so powerful and so beautiful. And all of the commies got in on the activation too, and many of them were like, we're going back with the people, like we're anchored to you, we're gonna help you from now on. And they like made this bond, and it was so beautiful and amazing, and it was such a powerful activation that we got to facilitate there in a shrine in Osaka, Japan. It was amazing. I was like, I wanted to be really respectful because like I know, you know, some cultures that would be really disrespectful, and Yuki's like, they can't understand you, and like, Japanese people don't speak English, like you're honoring the spirits, that's what this is for, like you should do this. And I was like, okay, so that's why we did it there. And then we went and did karaoke. Yeah, we did. We karaoke'd it up. And that was the end of kind of the group portion of the trip. However, Weston and I and Kristen and Dan were also going to stay for an additional week. And I'm going to run through this a little bit quicker. This is a really powerful, wonderful time as well, but I know this video has lasted forever. And if you want me to do more details about any of this, please let me know and I'll make another video. But we made our way back gradually to Tokyo via Kyoto. We went back to Kyoto, spent another day in Kyoto, again shopping at Nishiki Market and just being in the Kyoto energy that I love so much. Oh my god, I love Kyoto. It's just so nice. Anyway, I truly wish I could have spent another like 3 days there. You easily would be able to. Then we went back to Tokyo, we checked into a new hotel, and at this new hotel, it was ridiculously tiny, but it was very much in the heart of Shinjuku. I actually really like Shinjuku. As far as areas in Japan, I think a lot of people don't like staying in Shinjuku as much. I loved it. I really did. And we hung out and just basically got back to Tokyo and was relaxing there. And another one of our travelers, out of all of the hotels in all of Tokyo, of which there are thousands, happened to book the same hotel that we did. He came back the next day and happened to stay in the same hotel. It was not the same hotel we had been at before. It was this entirely different one in an entirely different part of the city, and he happened to pick the same one. Isn't that wild? I think that's just the coolest, most like affirming thing. Like in all of the country, I know 3 people or 4 people, and one of them happens to book the same hotel. Like, it was amazing. It also like bordered this beautiful park, and so one of the days we went to this park, it was gardens and it was huge, and it was really cool because there were a lot of insects kind of everywhere, but it was just this huge, beautiful park, and one part of that park was a traditional Japanese garden. And so we walked through the traditional Japanese garden, and I'm trying to find a place to get some dirt for my mom because I always bring my mom back dirt from everywhere we go. So I'm trying to find a spot to find some dirt, and I did. And right after that, I look over, and on the tree, there's this big rhinoceros beetle, which are super duper rare. It's not the kind of one with pincers, like the pincer beetles. Those are way more common. It was a rhinoceros one, which is a huge, very rare beetle, and it was like a super blessing. And I was like, well, all the bugs are blessing me on this trip. It was super special. And then we went to this tea house in the traditional garden, and it was like a sit on the ground tea house. It just made my soul happy. Oh, it just made my soul so happy to be in that tea house and just drink tea and eat some mochi and be in the cool and just watch the fountain. And oh, it was so special. It just really made me feel so grounded. And we went to the bathroom after that, and I was in the bathroom being like, I'm gonna miss Japanese bathrooms so much. And Weston apparently was in the bathroom like fighting for his life against a murder hornet and a spider that was like bigger than my hand. So that was an experience too. We played a lot of Pokemon Go. We just did kind of touristy stuff, which was amazing. We went to Akihabara, which is like the gaming district. We played a lot of claw games. We went to Shibuya. We went to the Final Fantasy Cafe, because Weston's a big Final Fantasy player. We had just a really wonderful time with all of that. And then we ended up going to Disneyland and Disney Sea. Disney Sea was by far my favorite. I'm not going to do a full rundown. I could talk about these parks forever. I loved them. It was so much fun. I had such a great time at both parks. I would 100% go back again. Disney Sea we did with Krista and Dan, and we did get into Fantasy Springs, which is the new land that they opened. The Peter Pan ride is by far the best ride I've ever been on in my life. In Disney Sea, it was so good. That was also where, like, you maybe have seen it on social media, but there's like the Tangled ride. And there's the Frozen ride, right? Like, that's all in that area, and it was incredibly cool. It was just so good. It was so good, and I love Japan. And then on our last day, it kind of was a cyclical thing, because on our very, very first day in Japan, I had pulled up, I was trying to see what shopping or eating was around our hotel. It was called the Shinjuku Washington Hotel. And I pulled it up, and the first search for some reason was Shinjuku Washington haunted. And I was like, well, that's fucking interesting. Is it haunted? It wasn't. It had nothing about that. But there was a shrine that popped up called the Oiwa Shrine. Now, the Oiwas is the story of this woman who was absolutely brutalized by her husband. I'm not going to say the details here because this video would get banned. And then she became this shrieking spirit. And she is one of Izanami's like closest. Izanami is like her patron deity, basically. They work together, and anytime a man wrongs a woman, the Oiwa spirits are sent to deal with it, to harm the man. And so I was like, okay, Izanami, I will go to the Oiwa Shrine. Happened to be really close to where we were staying the second time, the one hotel where we had the same traveler booked as us. And so on our last day, Weston and I went to the Oiwa Shrine, and it was such a cool cyclical, like, closing of the loop moment, where we got to close the entire trip, and I got to give thanks to Izanami. I got to give thanks to Oiwa for helping me, because I'm a victim of domestic abuse from a previous relationship, and it was a beautiful, beautiful experience to close it out in that way. Then we made it home, and now we've been jet lagged for a week and a half. It's been really brutal, honestly. There's even more than that, but it was just an incredible, magical experience, and it was so activated. And when I came home, I actually did get a huge activation from Izanami like 2 nights ago, because I was closing that energy, because I hadn't fully closed it or like said thank you now that I got home. So I took some time to like be grateful to her and just be like, thank you for your guidance. Like, what's our deal now? Like, are you staying around, or was it just for this trip? Like, what's our deal? Which, no attachment. She can do what she wants. And she's now going to be kind of like a consultant, not a guide, but like a consultant. Oh, a bug just landed on my window. Look at that. But a consultant for me. So there was that. And she gave me this huge activation that took this like long-standing ball of anxiety left over from my ex from me. And all of it was a result of this trip. So it was amazing. It was incredible. If you want to travel with us, we do have open trips pretty much all the time. But yeah, thank you guys so much for being here. This is my Japan wrap up. It was amazing. I cannot wait to go back. I've thought about it every single day since we've returned, how badly I want to go back, and I would like to go back. Please. Mega quick or not, I want to go. But thank you all for being here. If you could like and subscribe to my channel, that would be amazing. And don't forget, you all are magical as fuck. Have an amazing day. Bye.